Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by shamanspiritcenter.com, transrelational healing, and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that doesn't get enough attention in the conversation about narcissists, and that is how boring narcissists can be. For all that we hear about how enigmatic and magnetic and chaotic that pathologically narcissistic people can be, it's often left out of the conversation how boring they can be. The reality is, dealing with narcissistic personalities on a regular basis can often be extremely boring, almost mind numbingly boring and empty, devoid of any true content. When you first meet them, narcissistic personalities can seem very engaging. They might have lots of stories and anecdotes or jokes and lines of patter. Maybe they have theories or points. The problem is, once you've heard all of these a few times, you start to realize that that's all there really is. It's like they have a Rolodex of intelligent things to say or interesting points to make, and once those are all used up, that's it. There are no more. Anything starts to get tiresome after you've heard it 50 times. And this is particularly true with narcissistic personalities because since so much of what they offer is just mimicry, memorization, and repetition anyway, there's not really any possibility for deeper conversation about anything they say. Even if they do actually know about what they're talking about or understand it in more than a surface way, they often take any attempts to probe deeper or asking questions as invasive and threatening, perhaps as an implication that they're wrong or they don't really know what they're talking about. And of course, many times they actually don't. So this fear is warranted, even though the people who are asking the questions usually don't know that. The narcissist wants to make sure they don't find out, so questions are often ignored in some way, answered in a circular fashion, treated as hostile, and responded to in the same fashion, hostilely, deflected somehow, or otherwise just not answered. If asking questions or trying to gain a deeper understanding of something is not permitted, conversation can't survive. Couple this with the fact that narcissists tend to respond with hostility to questions and to interest in general because they find it threatening, and conversation not only can't survive, but it often goes horribly wrong. The truth is, the emotional chaos of narcissists is easily the most quote-unquote interesting thing about them, and even that can become boring. How many times can you watch the same fireworks display or the same building being blown up before it's just not exciting or captivating anymore? This includes the seemingly positive emotional chaos like what we see in love bombing and idealization. Once people realize that the strong, intense emotions that they are reading from this person have nothing to actually do with them, but are literally only for and about the narcissist, they realize how empty this all really is. Some narcissists may seem enigmatic and magnetic at first because they're hard to read. Because they don't have a strong, cohesive sense of self, and because much of what they're putting out is an act, they don't seem to make sense to people's radar, which can trigger a desire to sort of like, quote, solve the mystery or figure them out. It is a bitter disappointment for many to find out that there is no big mystery. There's really nothing to figure out at all. Narcissists can also seem magnetic because they are emotionally unavailable in the extreme. And this can trigger people's wounds around not being seen and heard, which causes them to keep trying to make the narcissist see them and hear them and care about them. It's a subconscious attempt to address these wounds by trying to achieve a different outcome in a similar situation. That is sometimes known as repetition compulsion. For example, if someone felt unseen and unheard by an important caregiver in their life, when someone in their adult life is also emotionally unavailable, this can trigger a very strong desire to address that by getting this person to see them and hear them and validate them and care about them and choose them. There is often the idea that once this can be achieved, then the narcissist's deep well of emotional treasures will be unlocked and shared with the person. This is a fantasy from childhood, and it's often coupled with a cognitive distortion called heaven's reward, which is where people believe that the harder they work or the more they suffer, the bigger the reward is going to be at the end. But there is no treasure trove here. There is no reward with a narcissist. What you've already seen is basically all there is to this person. A not so great act that is covering up complete emotional chaos and arrested development. An emotional toddler who walks around pretending to be an adult and many times doesn't even do that very well. Nothing exciting or mysterious here at all. Many people find it too difficult to accept or to believe that that's all there is. They feel that there must be more to this person, and they can waste years trying to find it. The reality is that what you see is what there is, and that is basically nothing. That's the biggest way that narcissists are boring. There's just not a whole lot there. And once you've seen this sort of main act a few times, there's really nothing else of interest to see. They don't have much to talk about. They're not really curious about things the way that other people are. They aren't usually that great at conversation with other people in general. They're not interested in other people. They actually don't seem to have very many interests or to be interested in very much at all outside of themselves. It's just the same complaints or hard luck stories or bragging or heroic tales or superficial chatter over and over and over again, all starring the narcissist. People in relationships with pathologically narcissistic personalities often find themselves literally bored silly. This could sound trite or even unimportant compared to the suffering that these personalities are capable of inflicting, but when you add it to the amount of gaslighting and abuse already happening, it becomes much more damaging. People need stimulation. They need connection. They need to bond. They need interaction. But when you're dealing with narcissistic personalities, you may very well find these things very hard to come by, especially as the relationship goes on through time. Far from the intense love bombing and whirlwind chaos narcissists are notorious for, many narcissists are not interested in interacting with the people around them at all after a while. They choose instead to stare at their devices, to play games that are just designed for one person, to stay physically separated from those around them, and just generally to not interact. This can be very damaging for young children of narcissists, for example, who need their parents' attention, as well as for spouses and other people who have been isolated from others at the narcissist's instigation and have no real or meaningful interaction with anybody else. Bids for interaction or connection with the narcissist are often met with hostility and aggression because narcissists typically find even basic interactions with other people very stressful, and because they tend to resent any encroachment on their time and space by other people. Anything you ask them for is too much, and people are often viciously attacked and shamed just for doing that, just for asking the narcissist to spend time with them, or just for trying to initiate a conversation and have some interaction. After this happens enough times, people stop trying to interact with the narcissist, and many have long since stopped interacting with other people because it's not worth the problems. Shame can also have a lot to do with people isolating themselves from others as well. However it happens, people can find themselves left alone with a narcissist as their main or even only source of meaningful human interaction. Even in the best of times, the positive interaction with this type of person is often very limited. They just don't have much interest in other people. Talking to a narcissist is like talking to a person on TV who cannot see you or hear you. No matter what you say, they just continue on with their performance and saying their little lines and acting out their little role. It's the most frustrating, uninteresting thing in the entire world. Even if narcissists are interested in interacting, and even if they are inclined to behave appropriately during the interaction, it's still often very superficial, very one-sided, and can turn ugly very fast, making it impossible to ever enjoy it or to even relax. There's no trust here whatsoever, not even basic trust that this person will remain the same character or persona from one moment to the next. Nor should there be any trust in this regard, honestly, because there's absolutely no guarantee that that will happen. Any positive interaction with a narcissist is generally spoiled by that. More often, though, the general interaction with narcissists vacillates between vicious arguing and fighting or being completely ignored, especially as the relationship goes on. You can sit with a narcissist for hours, and if you don't talk, there may literally be not one word uttered. Even when you're ostensibly doing things together, interaction is often limited or non-existent. Unless you're arguing, of course, and even then, even the arguing may fade away to something that only happens occasionally, leaving people in situations where they are completely ignored, as if they're a piece of furniture. People sometimes say this is because narcissists are not worried about trying to impress people after they've already secured the relationship, and there is truth to that. But it's also because of what we've been saying here. They just don't have very much to offer. They're very, very limited. There's nothing really there for people who are not completely, totally brand new to the relationship or the situation. People who are not brand new to the relationship or to the situation have already seen all the razzle dazzle. They've heard the sizzle. They've smelled the steak. Those things brought them into the restaurant. They sat down. They were told that the steak was available. They ordered it and their order was accepted. Now they want to eat it. The problem is they can't eat it. They can't eat it because it doesn't exist. There is no steak. The sizzle and the smell that drew you in are the closest you are going to get. And when people start wanting to eat the steak, when they start wanting a real relationship from the narcissist, this is where everything falls apart. They can't give you the steak that they offered because there actually isn't one. So they either try to keep you around by promising that it's coming eventually, or they shame and attack you for wanting to eat it. Either way, you don't get it because it doesn't exist and it never did. They have nothing to give you. People sometimes interpret the sizzle and the smell to mean that there had to be a steak. There had to be a steak. I heard it. I smelled it. There has to be one, which means that the narcissist has the ability to produce, but they're just refusing. This is where the belief in the treasure trove and the attempts to convince the narcissist to share their emotional riches that we were just talking about earlier, that's where that comes from. This is false. The implied or perceived appearance of something does not translate into a reality of the thing. A mirage in the desert looks like water, but you can walk until you drop, and that water will never get any closer because it's not really there. It's a combination of factors creating an illusion that there is water, and this is enhanced by our own thirst. We believe, and often continue to believe, that there is a steak, in large part because we're hungry and we want there to be a steak, not because there's any real evidence that there ever was one. Narcissists are aware in their own way that they don't have anything to offer other people. Most of them don't seem to realize how limited they actually are, but they do seem to be aware that a real relationship is not going to work for them. Which doesn't matter anyway because they don't seem to really want one. They find actual intimacy threatening and scary, and the idea of reciprocity is not just frightening to narcissists, but it makes them angry. The idea that they should have to give anything in order to get something triggers an infantile entitlement, probably based in the fact that they don't actually have anything to give and they know that. If people are required to give in order to receive, then narcissists are essentially cut right out of that equation from the jump, which means they can't get anything. They tend to feel that this is unfair somehow, and it makes them angry to be required to do anything. They do, however, need other people in order to function, hence our metaphor about the sizzle and the smell of the steak. They need others to come around and stay around, at least for a little while, and the promise of the steak is how they achieve that. We can see this in the way that they will almost never actually admit that there is no steak, even though they very clearly know that. Instead, they pretend it's coming soon as you do this and wait for that and jump through this hoop and hop over that hurdle and climb this mountain and swim that river. Or they attack and shame and berate you for wanting to eat it while at the same time insisting that they really were going to give it to you. At no time do they ever just give you the steak, and at no time do they ever just say there isn't one. They continue this fatal balancing act of pretending it exists and it's attainable, just either not right now or not for you personally. It's the same worn out magic trick over and over and over again. It doesn't take very long at all for this to get really old, and that's why it isn't nearly as effective on people who are not new to the situation. Narcissistic personalities are aware of that to a degree. They can see that it's not as effective any longer. That's why they stop bothering. There was never anything to give you in the first place, and you are no longer satisfied with just promises that the aroma and the sound are going to lead you somewhere, so why waste any effort on you when you have already learned that you're never going to get to eat? If you're dealing with a boring narcissist who suddenly becomes the life of the party or the kindest person in the world or the most helpful elf in the room around other people, try to look past your initial emotional reaction to this and see what there really is to see. You've already heard all of these stories. You've already seen the depth of their, quote, kindness. You already know what strings are attached to their, quote, help. You've seen what this person really has to offer, and the truth is, it's not very much at all. The people they're currently performing for don't know that yet, but you do. Don't let it bother you. It's not worth it because in the end, it's always the same. The traveling circus eventually folds up its tents and moves on, and this sad one-dimensional clown is left behind, waiting for another circus so they can suit up and begin their act again. Same paint, same act, same result every single time. Don't take their failure to try to perform for you anymore as meaning anything about you. It doesn't. It means their worn out bag of tricks has been exhausted and they can't adapt to that, so they just try to ignore it. Take it as evidence of their inability to actually engage with anybody on even a basic, genuine level, because that's what it is. At the bottom of it, narcissists are all sizzle and no steak. If you're in the situation where this person has become your main or only means of interacting with other humans, there's no other way to say it. This needs to be changed immediately. Humans do not do well in this kind of environment at all. It can cause extreme stress reactions in people. This kind of boredom is oppressive and even dangerous. Find things you can do that interest you, people to talk to. Even just small talk and surface banter can help. Find a therapist, a group, an online community. Go to the park. Reconnect with family members or friends if you can do that. Do something. Don't let this person shrink your world down to just them, because you will be in it alone. Their world doesn't include you. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, via text, via Messenger, and through Skype and Zoom for clients worldwide. So if you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I teach workshops, clinics, and seminars multiple times throughout the year. So if you are interested in seeing what we're running this month, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I have several books in publication. You can find them on Amazon and littleshaman.org if you would like to get a copy. And if you would like to join our support group with access to exclusive content, weekly support meetings, and more, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that as well. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by shamanspiritcenter.com, Transrelational Healing, and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you. Have a beautiful day.
If you've been struggling through dealing with or recovering from an unhealthy relationship with a narcissist or other toxic personality, the Little Shaman has a catalog of over 500 YouTube videos designed to support your journey from discovery to recovery. You can also find additional resources on the Little Shaman website, including tools, courses, workshops, a support group with weekly meetings, and one-on-one appointments with the Little Shaman that are open to clients worldwide. There's even an AI chatbot built and trained exclusively by the Little Shaman using her work that can answer questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For more information, visit littleshaman.org. You can listen to the Little Shaman wherever you find your favorite podcasts.